19-year-old Dylan Rounds vanished from his farm in the quiet, remote expanses of Utah. His sudden disappearance sparked an intense search and left a small community gripped with fear and uncertainty. How could a young man disappear without a trace? What dark secrets lie hidden in the vast rural landscapes? As investigators delved deeper, the case only grew more complex, unraveling a web of potential suspects and shocking revelations. Dylan Rounds, a young and ambitious farmer, was known for his dedication to his work and his dreams of cultivating a prosperous future on his own piece of land. But on a fateful day, Dylan's routine life took a sinister turn. His family, after not hearing from him, grew concerned and rushed to his farm, only to find it eerily empty. The initial searches turned up nothing, raising chilling questions about what could have happened to this young man. As the days turned into weeks, the mystery deepened. Why were there no immediate clues? How could someone disappear so completely? Investigators soon faced the daunting reality of searching for Dylan in a vast, isolated area with little to go on. The rural setting posed unique challenges: sparse population, limited resources, and an expansive terrain that could conceal countless secrets. The discovery of Dylan's remains in a remote location brought both heartbreak and a renewed urgency to the investigation. The circumstances of his death pointed unmistakably to foul play. Who could have done this and why? The list of potential suspects grew, each with their own shadowy connections and possible motives. But finding definitive answers in such a secluded and sprawling area proved to be an arduous task for law enforcement. This case highlights the significant difficulties faced when solving crimes in rural areas. Unlike urban environments where surveillance cameras, witnesses, and resources are more readily available, rural crime investigations often rely heavily on physical searches and sparse, often fragmented information. The isolation that defines these beautiful, quiet landscapes can also be their biggest hindrance when darkness strikes. Join us as we explore the tragic and perplexing case of Dylan Rounds. We will uncover the details of his life, the heartbreaking day of his disappearance, the relentless efforts of his family and law enforcement to find the truth, and the broader implications of solving crimes in America's rural heartlands. Stay tuned to learn more about the investigation, the suspects, and the ongoing quest for justice in a case that has left a community forever changed. Dylan Rounds was a 19-year-old with a bright future and an unwavering passion for farming. Growing up in Idaho, he developed a love for agriculture at a young age, inspired by the rural lifestyle and the hard work it demanded. Dylan was known for his determination, often spending long hours tending to his crops and livestock. His dedication was evident to all who knew him as he tirelessly pursued his dream of running a successful farm. In 2020, Dylan moved to a remote farm in Lucin, Utah, a small, unincorporated community in Box Elder County. The farm, which he had recently acquired, became his sanctuary. The isolation and the challenge of cultivating the land were exactly what Dylan sought. He relished the independence and the opportunity to shape his future through his own efforts. His days were filled with the rhythm of farm life, planting crops, caring for animals, and maintaining equipment. Despite the solitary nature of his work, Dylan maintained close ties with his family. He frequently communicated with his parents and siblings, sharing updates about his progress and plans for the farm. To his family, Dylan was not just a hard-working young man, but also a source of pride and hope, embodying the spirit of perseverance and self-reliance. The timeline leading up to Dylan's disappearance began with what seemed like a normal day. On May 26, 2022, Dylan spoke with his grandmother on the phone, discussing his plans and the ongoing work at the farm. This was the last known contact anyone had with him. When his family couldn't reach him in the following days, concern quickly turned to alarm. By May 28, 2022, Dylan's family decided to drive to his farm. What they found was unsettling. Dylan's truck was parked on the property, but there was no sign of him. His boots, an essential item for any farmer, were found abandoned nearby. The farm itself appeared undisturbed, with no immediate indications of a struggle or foul play. These eerie details only deepened the mystery and the family's growing fear. The days following his disappearance saw an extensive search effort involving local authorities, volunteers, and search and rescue teams. The expansive and rugged terrain made the search challenging, but those who knew Dylan refused to give up hope. The community, though small, rallied together, spreading the word and assisting in any way they could. Despite these efforts, no trace of Dylan was found, leaving everyone grasping for answers in the face of an increasingly perplexing and heartbreaking situation. The last known whereabouts of Dylan Rounds place him at his farm in Lucin, Utah on May 26, 2022. On that day, he had a routine phone call with his grandmother, updating her on his work and plans. It was an ordinary conversation, one that gave no hint of the darkness about to unfold. After this call, Dylan seemed to vanish without a trace. His phone went silent, and attempts by family and friends to reach him were met with an unsettling and deafening silence. Alarmed by the lack of communication, Dylan's family grew increasingly concerned. On May 28, 2022, they decided to make the trip to his farm. Upon arrival, they found Dylan's truck parked on the property, but there was no sign of him. Disturbingly, his boots were discovered near the farm, an ominous clue given their importance in his daily work. The farm itself appeared undisturbed, amplifying the mystery surrounding his sudden disappearance. The initial search efforts were swift and intense. Local authorities, search and rescue teams, and volunteers from the community banded together, scouring the vast, rugged terrain surrounding Dylan's farm. They combed through fields, checked abandoned buildings, and searched nearby water sources, hoping to find any clue that could lead them to Dylan. The search was complicated by the sheer size of the area and the harsh, remote landscape that characterized Lucin. Drones, helicopters, and trained search dogs were deployed to cover more ground and navigate the difficult terrain. Despite these extensive efforts, days turned into weeks with no sign of Dylan. The lack of evidence and the expansive search area made the task increasingly daunting. As time passed, the hope of finding Dylan alive began to wane, but his family and the local community remained steadfast in their resolve to uncover the truth. The public response was one of profound concern and support. News of Dylan's disappearance spread quickly through social media and local news outlets, drawing attention to the case from across the state and beyond. Volunteers from neighboring towns joined the search efforts, and fundraisers were organized to support the ongoing investigation. The outpouring of solidarity provided some solace to Dylan's family, who were grappling with the unimaginable reality of their missing loved one. Dylan's family took to social media, sharing updates and pleading for information that could lead to his whereabouts. Their posts were shared widely, reaching thousands of people and keeping Dylan's story in the public eye. The collective anxiety and determination of the community underscored the deep impact of Dylan's disappearance and the urgent need for answers in this baffling and tragic case. The discovery of Dylan Round's remains marked a tragic turn in the case. On July 7, 2022, after weeks of relentless searching, a breakthrough came when Dylan's remains were found in a remote area several miles from his farm in Lucin, Utah. The discovery was made by a volunteer search team that had been meticulously combing through the difficult terrain, refusing to give up hope even as the days stretched on. The location where Dylan's remains were found was isolated and rugged, a harsh environment that had concealed the truth for weeks. It was clear that whoever was responsible for Dylan's disappearance had chosen a spot that would be challenging to access and search, likely in an attempt to cover their tracks and delay discovery. This remote area posed significant challenges for investigators who had to carefully navigate the terrain to recover and analyze the remains. Initial findings from the investigation pointed unmistakably to foul play. The condition of Dylan's remains indicated that he had met a violent end, and the evidence collected from the scene suggested that his death was not accidental. The exact details of the injuries and the circumstances surrounding his death were kept confidential by law enforcement to preserve the integrity of the ongoing investigation. The discovery of Dylan's remains sent shockwaves through his family and the close knit community. For his family, the confirmation of Dylan's death was a devastating blow, shattering any remaining hope that he might be found alive. Their grief was profound and palpable as they faced the heartbreaking reality that Dylan's promising young life had been cut short in such a brutal manner. The community's reaction was one of collective mourning and outrage. Dylan's disappearance and subsequent discovery had deeply affected the residents of Lucin and the surrounding areas. Vigils were held to honor Dylan's memory, and the community rallied around his family, offering support and solidarity in their time of unimaginable loss. The sense of unity was strong, with many expressing their determination to see justice served for Dylan. As the investigation continued, the discovery of Dylan's remains brought renewed focus and urgency to finding the person or persons responsible for his death. Law enforcement intensified their efforts, re examining evidence and pursuing leads with heightened determination. The case had become a symbol of the broader challenges faced in rural crime investigations, highlighting the need for persistent, community driven efforts to uncover the truth and seek justice for the victims. Dylan Round's tragic story served as a stark reminder of the darkness that can lurk even in the most seemingly peaceful and isolated places. The investigation into Dylan Round's disappearance and murder was both exhaustive and intricate, involving multiple law enforcement agencies working tirelessly to uncover the truth. From the moment Dylan was reported missing, investigators faced a myriad of challenges, primarily due to the remote and vast terrain of Lucin, Utah. Despite these obstacles, law enforcement remained determined to solve the case and bring the responsible parties to justice. Early in the investigation, detectives focused on gathering as much information as possible from Dylan's farm and the surrounding areas. They conducted extensive interviews with family members, friends, and acquaintances to piece together Dylan's last known movements. The initial lack of physical evidence made progress slow, but investigators meticulously reviewed phone records, social media activity, and any potential surveillance footage from nearby locations. As leads began to surface, attention turned to several individuals who had interacted with Dylan in the days leading up to his disappearance. Among the primary suspects was James Brenner, a local man with a checkered past who had been living in a makeshift camp near Dylan's farm. Brenner's history of violent behavior and his proximity to the last known location of Dylan made him a person of significant interest to investigators. Further scrutiny of Brenner revealed inconsistencies in his statements and suspicious behavior following Dylan's disappearance. Another individual under investigation was Don Hatley, a neighbor who had reportedly helped Dylan with farm work on occasion. Hatley's background check showed previous run-ins with the law, adding to the complexity of the case. Although there was no direct evidence initially linking Hatley to the crime, investigators considered his knowledge of the area and his potential motives. The rural setting of Lucin presented unique challenges for law enforcement. The vast, open landscape offered numerous places where evidence could be hidden or lost. Additionally, the sparse population meant fewer potential witnesses, and the isolation made it difficult to gather timely information. Investigators had to rely heavily on specialized search teams and forensic experts to comb through the rugged terrain for any clues. Moreover, the investigation was complicated by limited resources typical of rural law enforcement. With fewer officers and less advanced technology at their disposal compared to urban police departments, the task of solving such a complex case required collaboration with state and federal agencies. Despite these hurdles, the dedication and perseverance of the law enforcement teams remained unwavering. The discovery of Dylan's remains injected new urgency into the investigation, prompting a reevaluation of all available evidence. Suspects were re interviewed, and new forensic techniques were employed to uncover previously missed details. The community's support played a crucial role as tips and information continued to flow in, helping to keep the case alive and the pursuit of justice for Dylan Rounds ongoing. Solving crimes in rural areas like Lucin, Utah, comes with a unique set of challenges. The vast and isolated terrain can hide evidence and make search efforts painstakingly slow. With fewer residents, there are often limited eyewitnesses and less surveillance, which urban investigations frequently rely on. The sparse population also means that local law enforcement has fewer resources and personnel, making it difficult to cover large areas quickly and thoroughly. In urban settings, advanced technology, extensive CCTV networks, and quicker response times significantly aid criminal investigations. Urban police departments typically have larger teams and better access to forensic labs and other resources, which can expedite the investigation process. In contrast, rural investigations often depend on community cooperation and regional or state level assistance, which can delay progress. The disappearance and murder of Dylan Rounds have had a profound impact on the Lucin community. Initially, the tight knit residents banded together in search efforts, showing remarkable solidarity and support for Dylan's family. The crime has cast a shadow over the community, shaking the sense of safety and trust that residents once enjoyed. Long term effects include heightened fear and vigilance among locals. The community's trust in law enforcement is both strengthened by their persistence and strained by the slow pace of progress. The case has also brought greater awareness to the vulnerabilities of rural areas in dealing with serious crimes, potentially leading to calls for increased resources and better crime solving capabilities in these regions. In summary, the tragic case of Dylan Rounds underscores the unique challenges faced in solving rural crimes, from the initial disappearance to the heartbreaking discovery of his remains and the complex investigation involving multiple suspects. Each step has highlighted the difficulties inherent in such cases. The lack of immediate evidence, vast search areas, and limited resources have all played a role in complicating the investigation. As of now, the investigation into Dylan's murder remains active, with law enforcement continuing to pursue leads and gather evidence. The community remains hopeful for justice, and the case serves as a stark reminder of the resilience and determination required in rural crime investigations. If you found this video informative, please consider subscribing to our channel and sharing this video. Your support helps keep important stories like Dylan's in the public eye and aids in the ongoing quest for justice. Thank you for watching.